break of dawn to late night and get the truth straight from ADSN.
We're back, ADSN. We've got two special guests today, Jim O'Brien, Mike Christo. Guys, we've talked a lot on this show about this debate between who's going to win the AI wars, the marketers or the developers. We want to dig into that today because that battle is heating up. Google's made some recent announcements. And you guys, as the founders of Layers, we want to hear from you what you're seeing and what you're hearing from both developers and marketers out there. So why don't we start with what is Layers and kind of what are you hearing out there?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us, guys. Layers is marketing for developers. It's your technical CMO. It lives in the IDE. It lives in the vibe coding tools. It meets the developer wherever they are to help the developer kind of get over this emotional roller coaster of launching. So as a developer, you get super excited. You're building something. You finally get to launch. It's in the app store. It's live on the web, whatever it is that you're building. And then crickets. And then it gets really kind of discouraging. And you, as a developer, you have this visceral reaction most of the time to marketing, which is like, I don't want to do it. I'd rather go back and find comfort in code. And so you find developers that kind of launch, don't succeed, go back and build some more features, and they get in this kind of cycle instead of actually pushing through and doing the marketing. So what we did is took a step back and said, as a marketer, what would we do to help this developer? And as a developer, what will we want to see in order to actually get this product into market? So that's what we did for Layers. It's basically a fully automated end-to-end agentic marketing agent that works with developers. It's fully code aware. It makes decisions and it helps give you kind of really opinionated guidance based on how you should take your product to market.
And just for everyone listening, so I mean, so Mike and Jim both have basically been they're both former or engineers who have built basically more ad tech than probably anyone like over the last 15 years. So Mike and Jim both were at Shift, which was our first company, which was one of the first Facebook Ads API companies. And then they were at Snap, where they both built out a bunch of the ad tools there. Jim was at Coinbase. So you guys have seen a bunch of stuff here. And I guess given maybe kind of, we can get back to Layers in a second, but just given kind of the trajectory of AI, what is the state of play? If you're someone who's listening to this right now that whose job is basically to get people to buy ads from you, which a lot of our listeners, those are effectively what their job is. How is this going to change? What's the sort of the state of the union in terms of just whatever month it is now, May 2025, what's going on?
I'll take a first pass at it and then Jim would love you to jump in on it. But basically, we're in a really exciting time for developers. For the first time in a very long time, you can use all of these AI-enabled coding tools and you get instant gratification as a developer. And that's what's historically very rare. In the olden days, a couple of years ago, you'd basically spend months building something and then it's finally on your phone or it's finally ready to release. And that's great. And now you can basically get there in hours or days. And so what we're going to see and what we're seeing already is a lot of developers taking the time to actually pursue that side project, bet on themselves, try to build that thing that gives them a few things. It allows them to play with these tools. So whether they're a solo founder just doing their own thing, or whether they're an engineer at OpenAI or Meta or Snap or somewhere else, largely they're going to do something on the side to stay relevant and touch all these tools. And so what Layers does is gives them the ability to take that to market in a much simpler way. But at the end of the day, what you're seeing is people actually starting to take bets on themselves. And that's really, really exciting because all of these tools allow them to do that at this point.
Yeah, to expand on what Mike just said, I think one of the really interesting things happening right now is with the capabilities that LLMs are getting through this new tech you've probably seen all over X and other places, but it's called MCP, right? And MCP is basically the USB port for an LLM. So what's happening right now, and literally this is what we're building with Layers as well, is that we are plugging in every ad buying platform that you can possibly imagine and letting an LLM with a lot of instruction and guidance go through deciding what channels perform best for this product or service. How can we experiment at small scale, ramp up, and just give the keys to basically a CMO that's going to surface decisions to the decision maker, which is in our case like small teams, solo builders, and there's a bunch of other products out there like AI-enabled kind of enterprise marketing platforms that are built more so for the marketer that are doing this as well. So you're going to go from having to like log into a bunch of different platforms or maybe some like like mixed media modeling tools and just let an agent propose to you things that you should consider doing. And then you can just, with a push of a button, decide to execute that or not. And if you're brave and you want to kind of just like YOLO the decision, like you could let it run on autopilot. So we think that this is just going to completely transform the scale that we're used to seeing and the velocity of transactions that are happening to a level that like we've never really seen yet. The fully like agentic world, we think is still like a bit of a ways out, but you see a lot of discussion around it today. The tech is almost there. There's just a lot of hesitancy and like skepticism about AI totally having control over decision making. So, this man in the middle or human in the middle model of approving decisions to execute marketing plans, executing ad budget is probably here for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that is that's what we're seeing. That's what we're building, and it's just like one of the most exciting times ever to be in this space.
And where are we in the cycle of MCPs? I think that was that's a concept that I think caught a lot of attention a few months ago. I mean, it's relatively nascent. I mean, LLMs are nascent, but we've been talking about that for the last 2 years. So where are we with MCPs? What is like the tipping point that the market needs to see for this to become mainstream and companies like Layers start to plug into more and more places with the kind of guidance and like approval of more and more businesses?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike, if you want to take it first.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting, right? A lot of very, very smart engineers. There's a really smart guy named Josh Bigford. He's done a whole bunch of stuff, right? He just tweeted the other day. He's like, it's day 70 something of not understanding what an MCP is. The sort of naysayers basically say like, what's the difference between this and just an API? And at the core, they are APIs. But what's really interesting about MCPs is that they're contextual. So they actually have context. And because you're using an LLM to engage with it, it can basically infer things, right? It doesn't need to be so prescriptive and it doesn't need to be so rigid where it can kind of like correct itself. So it can basically try to do something. And if it didn't work, it can say, I understand now what I did wrong. Let me go change what I did and try something else. It's a very, very interesting time for that, especially in marketing, because you might use an MCP server to generate a piece of content, for example. And then another agent looks at that piece of content and goes, all right, I don't really know if that worked out. What other things can I tell you so that I can drive the direction of the output? And the MCP server comes back and says like, oh, you can also tell me X, Y, and Z. And if you tell me the color scheme that you're looking for or the output dimension that you're looking for, I can do that too. And so now you basically have this sort of conversation that can happen between the server and the client without the engineer sitting there typing in like, this is how you have to use this particular thing. So the LLM can actually, the MCP client, which is backed by an LLM, can actually figure out how to work with the server. It's super exciting. It takes a little bit to get the head wrapped around it. I'm not sure I'm like 100% there. I'm like in the 90s. There's still a bunch of stuff evolving, but it is super, super powerful once you sort of give in to the idea that you don't have to type out the code to make it explicit and exact every time, but you can actually find comfort in the chaos of it.
Yeah, and I didn't actually realize, to explain it that way, that the MCP was also sort of aware, like in that construct. Is it? I guess like all the traditional sort of API driven models, like they kind of can't win against this, right? Like over time, like will it be that like all the traditional ads APIs just kind of mold into being MCP servers, and like is that like just like inevitable at this point?
Yeah, I think it takes over. That'd be my sense on it. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah. So if you offer some service and it has an API, it is in your interest to like put the like MCP interface to that API out there, so LLMs can then just discover and use your product or service programmatically. And it's kind of just like another open standard. Like when I first kind of started using and read into MCP, like there's this like documentation standard for traditional APIs called Open API. It's just a conventional format for describing your API interface. This kind of feels like the same thing, but for like LLMs to understand what functionality is available for a particular service, and how can it interact and interface with that service. I think this like also kind of evolves into like kind of like search engine optimization for LLMs too. Like if you want your product to be discovered by autonomous agents, like it is in your interest to have your LLMs.txt file, your MCP server listed in all the directories, because agents will be capable of crawling the internet, discovering services, and like putting together transactions on the fly without having to be told like distinctly what to do. It can just go discover what it needs to do to accomplish the goal. So yeah, it is like an open standard that Anthropic put out late last year. It's being adopted. Like to your question earlier, Druger, how early is it? It's pretty early, but like we're seeing the major players now adopt MCP. Like Microsoft has, every major like code editor tool has MCP built into it as a standard. A lot of chat interfaces do now. So like it is like rapidly taking off. I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going to go away. Like I said earlier, it is very much like the USB port for an LLM. So as long as you can plug your thing into an LLM, you're going to need an interface to do that with. And this seems to be the standard that people are settling on.
I guess given that like all of these creative APIs exist, obviously all the ad buying platforms have APIs. Like you could definitely see a place where this is just totally autonomous, kind of constantly evolving. For if you put on kind of, I don't know, like the crystal ball, whatever, like how far away are we from, you basically just talked about like media buyers, like they kind of don't have to exist in this as much. I think you probably have creative directors, like there's still like creativity that matters, right? So like there's a home for that. A lot of sort of the like analyst roles probably can get taken over by some analytics API that can talk with MCP. Like how far away are we from just like mass disruption to like the marketing ecosystem? Like is this like is like ad tech going to go through a newspaper kind of style moment? Because it feels like it's like totally over. It feels overemployed. But is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, hearing you say it like that, it also sounds very dystopian. But it's kind of true. The current situation and the current state of the union is the tools are good right now, and they're only getting better. Like this is the worst that AI will ever be. And then now this is the worst that AI will ever be. Like every second of the day is just getting better. And so when you think about some of these very specialized roles, a media buyer, somebody that's there like literally gathering the data, trying to get the insights out of the data, maybe working with a data scientist to understand what the actual actionable thing to do here is, and then what lever to pull or what button to press or whatever it is. That's very, very ripe for disruption by these tools. And when you give these tools access to more data and you give these tools access to other tools, it gets really, really compelling. If a media buyer says, hey, this type of creative, this format is working really well, I need a bunch more like this. In the traditional sense, that's like, okay, You go to the creative team, like, now I need this. And then the creative team spins up a job request, and they go through that process of spinning up that creative. And then it goes back for review, and then it finally gets back to the media buyer. All that stuff can happen today through these tools programmatically. And so it basically can identify this type of creative. I've identified these aspects of the creative that are performing well. And here's what's consistently the same across the ones that are performing well versus not. Here's some insight into that data. Let's go kick off a process using an MCP server for some creative building tool. I now understand exactly what that tool needs. Maybe I have to ask a human for some input, or maybe I already have the context of it because I understand what's happening with the marketing plan so far. Go get some creative made, which now takes seconds or minutes. Make sure that that's approved, and then go run that creative. It's kind of fascinating. Like, all that stuff that used to take a week or two for turnaround now can happen in less than a couple minutes. So I think that there's a lot of roles in ads, in marketing, that are going to be disrupted. I think I agree with you. The creativity is still an important part today. But then you see something like VO3 come out, and it's like, wow, that thing can one shot end to end video with lip syncing and like all the things off a single really kind of bland prompt and produce really creative output. So I don't even know if creativity is protected anymore.
Yeah, I saw something. We should post to this in the show notes. But there was a VO video about the prompts being told that they were prompts, like the prompt theory one.
Yes,
and it does make you realize, like, a prompt of like, pretend you're creative and make me a great video for this brand is not far away from happening, right? Like, when they like we'll be able to help them simulate, the AI will be able to figure out what creativity looks and feels like. So I agree. It's especially given that, you could crawl all of Meta's ad library instantaneously, right? And be inspired by that. Like, it's not dystopian. Like, I'm excited about it, because I think we're all in a good situation to take advantage of it. But it feels way, way, way more disruptive than like Facebook taking off for ads. Like, everyone thought that broke everything. Like, this may break like everything.
Yeah, this is breaking everything, right? I mean, this is breaking everything off every industry, not just what we're seeing here in ads, but like the fact that OpenAI has these UBI experiments that they're doing, right? Like, the universal basic income experiment that OpenAI is doing is not because Sam is altruistic. It's because they can see where this is going, and this goes to a place where high agency people will win, and basically the only thing that matters right now is how to use the tools. Like, literally, just no matter what the role is, if you're a media buyer today, you've got to be using the tools. If you are a creative strategist, you have to be using the tools. And the time has passed where you can say, like, nah, it's not going to take my job. No, it can't write as well as a human. No, it's not as creative as a human. Like, maybe today, but probably not tomorrow. Tomorrow might not be tomorrow, but a year from now. But like, that's kind of where things are going.
And I'm curious too. I mean, going back to, I think, what you guys are building, but also just this concept of, solopreneurs can build something from scratch in hours or days, launch it, go acquire customers, and just repeat the cycle with, 1, 2, 3 people. This becomes infinitely scalable, though. I mean, I would imagine, right? If you launch a company, use your AI tools to go acquire customers and generate more creative and generate prompts and put out better content, you don't need to then go hire a team. You just increase the output of the agents you're using. Is that the right way to think about that?
Or you hire a person to kind of orchestrate and manage that part of the business for you instead of a team. And I think that's kind of how we're looking at that at this moment.
the irony of it is, and you guys will help enable this with layers. Obviously, I totally agree with the thesis. Like, if you think about people who are good at the people I know that are best at leveraging digital tools are developers. So this is like, I think those people who have excelled in system operations over the years are going to be the best at this. But then there are a lot of developers and a lot of people like that. So like, there's going to be an explosion of apps. Like, there's going to be more things being created probably than ever. And so then marketing becomes more important and distribution probably becomes more important than ever. And so nailing that feedback loop of like how the code evolves based on how consumers and customers are engaging with it feels like the magic, right? Like, and like, yeah, is that a fair assessment?
That's I can take it first if you want, Mike. But like, that's what we believe is the future, and what we're betting on, what we really hope the future is, because like, it can go one of two ways. It's like, it's this hyper fragmentation of software, or it is like this like dystopian Wall-E by and large mega corporation version where it's like one platform that owns everything in your life. And I don't think anybody really wants that. So like the hyper fragmentation of software means, just as you're saying, like everyone that's motivated and interested in building something has the means to do it, distribute it, sell it. And we're going to help make that happen with the platform we're building. Yeah.
And I love that concept, because I actually think, a lot of people have that dystopian view. So I think that's, what they've seen in Wall-E and elsewhere. But I actually think this is a great thing for consumers. Now you've reduced these like artificial moats from companies that, had access to VCs, could raise $100 million, and therefore they were, destined to win. Now you can get 5 independent developers all building the same thing. You know what? Best product wins, best distribution wins. Consumer has choice, right? Best price wins. And so now, like, what is best for me and what I'm interested in may be different from James, maybe different from Mike and you, Jim. And like, we all get the opportunity to use what we want, not because it's the thing.
Yep. I think there's something else that I've noticed over the last few years, and maybe it was like pandemic driven, but a lot of people have changed their mindset on what success looks like for themselves. And so not everybody wants to build a venture scale business, right? Like, there are a lot of people that want to build something to sustain their life. And there's a lot of developers that want that as well, that feel like, quote unquote, golden handcuffs at some big tech company or something like that, that they want to moonlight. They want to dabble with all these tools. They want to build something. And if they could replace their income, they don't want to go raise a ton of VC money. They don't want to go and build and try to build the next billion-dollar business. But if they can get to some number that meets their needs, and they can get the lifestyle that they want. And I think, again, this is like born out of the pandemic and people realizing like what's important in their own lives. We're seeing this like renaissance of entrepreneurship right now. And Klein is a great example, right? Like, what was it? 2 months ago, Jim, that they were like 1 million downloads. Klein is one of these like vibe coding tools, like these code editors that you can like give it a prompt and it goes for like a few minutes and like writes code and comes back and like, hey, I did it. I did the thing that you wanted. They got like 500,000 downloads. Like, they basically like had a giant increase from like 1 million to 1.5 million downloads in a month. There's people that are just getting into these tools. And I don't subscribe to these being like try the tool and be done with it. When you see the magic in these tools, like I'm in 3 different editors a day, right? Like I'm in VS Code with Klein, I'm in Cursor, and I'm in Windsurf. And at some point in the day, like all 3 of these tools are building something in the same code base and like doing stuff. That orchestration is coming to marketing. That ability for a single person to be an entire marketing team is here. And the time is now coming, and we're hoping to help with this, which is taking all these people who are not marketers and giving them that marketing co-pilot and being opinionated and saying like, hey, you're a developer. Here's the logical reason why we think you should do X, Y, and Z from your marketing standpoint. We're happy to go do it for you. You're always in control. But we think that marketing teams are going to compress. People are going to become super efficient. And I think companies that have brand safety concerns are probably going to be the ones that keep marketing teams around and keep that human in the loop more than the random developer who's like building something and they put together a mobile app or whatever they're launching that probably doesn't have a ton of brand safety concerns. That's probably like the YOLO mode person. Jim was saying, like, you can just give it YOLO mode and like go run some marketing for me, because who cares, right? Like, I don't really have brand safety concerns. But if I'm an actual company with brand safety concerns, I'm going to have that human in the middle. But that human is going to become so efficient and so powerful.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Well, I think what we should do is, I know we got to wrap, but first of all, if you're a developer, tell us where you can learn about layers, and then maybe in a couple of months you come back on and we watch you build an app and distribute it during the course of a podcast, and everyone's mind will be like blown.
That'd be so fun. And we'll bring you some people who have used layers and had success with it.
I love it, but how can they find out about layers?
Use layers.ai. We're on the internet. We're on X. We're on all the places as use layers. Use layers.ai on the web. Use layers on X. Come reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you. We want you to succeed.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us. It's great. All right. Bye.
From the break of dawn to late night and get the truth